Glenn, I tell you, when you start talking about finding good relationships, there, I guess you got to talk about what happens when people who want really good relationships, what happens when
they go
those
sour.
go bad.
Well, last time we did talk about happy beginnings. Today we have to cover sad endings.
Glen Thiessen is with us, wealth advisor with Transition Planning, Inc., and welcome back. I know you help families plan ahead for the major transitions in life, investment advice and securities, and offer all that through KMS Financial Services, Inc. Life's good, buddy?
It is great. And I am so happily married. I hope this never happens. I don't think it will, because we always give 110. But, in the unfortunate situation where things do not turn out as planned, there are major transitions like divorce.
Well, like we said earlier, the divorce rate for first-time married couples is still between 45 and 50%, so it's a harsh reality that people have to think about, unfortunately.
Yeah. And, we talked about things that you need to cover and the issues that you want to make sure are settled when you both married and also when you divorce. So, for example, there's two parts to the process. There's the pre-divorce process, and then there's the post-divorce process. So you really want to have the follow-through, when it's all over. What do you do? What do you talk about in the pre-divorce process? What do you think are important issues there?
Who gets the house, Glenn?
And that's definitely one of them. So you do want to cover.
Who gets the kids?
Yeah. Well, that's another huge issue.
Who gets the money?
And the money is a
dog?
Big deal. That's right. So starting with what are you starting with in terms of net worth, assets, liabilities, that kind of thing? Asset ownership arrangements, who owns what, what's the title on the house, the car, and like you say, who gets that and how does that title change? Beneficiary designations, you're going to want to make sure that those are basically, the way they should be now, and also after the divorce. So
it sounds like a lot of this initial step you're talking about is almost this discovery phase of what do we have?
Exactly. Yeah. So, and a lot of times today, people are, stressed out economically already. So now we're talking about splitting things up, and you're going to have half of what you had before. And in some cases, somebody's going to have to cover two households because perhaps both spouses weren't working. And now you've got the one, earner who was supporting one household now has to support two households. That makes it very, very difficult. So it has devastating effect on 401k plans because sometimes that's the only asset that can be liquidated partly to cover, to wipe out some of the debt so that at least there's some cash flow available to cover the ongoing support and that kind of thing. So it can be devastating on your retirement plans, for example. I mean, if you got to cut that in half and then divide it in half again just to pay down some debts, it's devastating. So, but
I have $30 left.
Well, yeah, it's how long is that going to last you?
Get me home.
Yeah, basically the next tank of gas. Yeah, so you want to cover insurance coverage. If you're, how do you impact? How does the employer plan cover your spouse? And how long will that cover your children, that kind of thing. So creating income and expense projections is important because it's let's sit down and look at the budget, how the cash flow is going. Who's bringing in the money and where is it going, both now and afterwards. Talk about the proposed division of assets, who gets what, right? So there could be some disagreement on that, of course. And again, a lot of that has to do with who's the income earner. And if there are two income earners, is there a discrepancy between the amounts of income? And how do you equalize that? How long have you been married? If you've been married for more than 10 years, then your ex will be able to actually claim on your Social Security down the road, unless they, of course, change that. So you want to talk about the tax considerations. Like, for example, if you do have to take and split the 401k plan, then there's no cost in moving half of it to an IRA account for the spouse that you're leaving. But the idea is if you
or who's leaving you, Glenn,
or who's leaving you. That's true. Could be that way too. Let's hope not. Anyway, if you have to take money out of a 401k plan and you're not 59 and a half yet, and you want to pay down $30,000 worth of debt, you're going to have to take $50,000 out just to, come up with the $30,000 after taxes to pay off the $30,000. So it's real expensive tax-wise. So look at the tax considerations. Talk about child support and maintenance needs. Are there any special needs that, disabled children, that kind of thing? Develop illustration. We need to talk about illustrating the possible disparities between the plans, because each spouse is going to have their own idea of how things should work out. And you've got to look at them side by side and see what's equitable, right?
It sounds to me that this pre-divorce process, this phase, it's very businesslike. It is very balance sheet. It's profit and loss. It's cash flow management. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that this is where I would imagine the difficult part is there's a lot of emotions that are involved. But when you really look at it on paper, it's it can almost be pretty clean cut about what you have or what you don't have.
Right. And that's the easy part. The difficult part is actually splitting it equitably.
And getting people to agree on the outcome, I would imagine.
Right. Yeah.
What are some of the big, are there a lot of different ways to solve that economic, that economic split? I've heard of, it's lump sum versus monthly payments. There's all sorts of different ways.
Yeah, there are different ways. And really, it'll come down to the attorneys deciding what's what, if you can't come to an agreement.
Do people ever give up more money to take the kids?
I don't know.
I don't know. It'd be interesting.
Yeah. I guess it
make you a pretty bad parent if you took money to give up your kids.
Forgo money to get the custody too. Actually,
Think about that.
I'd imagine that, depending on the personalities involved, it could be really beneficial or detrimental depending on who the judge decides gets the time with the children.
I would think when the judge says, so you're willing to basically sell your kids, at that point in time, like, you don't really have to give up the money. Keep the money. Here's the kids. And
yeah. Sometimes it's pretty obvious. Other times it's pretty difficult. So the thing is after the divorce decree, after it's over, then you still got the economic situation of, how am I going to survive this, right? So you've still got to follow through with, did you go ahead and update your beneficiary arrangements, for example, on your pension plan, on your life insurance, on, how did you make the changes that you needed to on the employer benefits, right? All of that. So you just have to review again what the, sources are for the income and how, if your spousal support is only going to last for so long, and you know that that's going to come to an end, it's kind of like living on welfare for a while. You're going to have to seek employment. You're going to have to become independent, financially independent from the source of support that you've been taking from, the ex-spouse. So plan ahead on that. Educate yourself, look for a career, that kind of thing, if you haven't been in the workforce. So it's just really important to do the follow through, which is sometimes not done adequately. I've seen situations where people, kind of when they died, the money went someplace else entirely where than was supposed to. That's not a really happy situation. Again, how do you want to be remembered? That kind of concept. So
the one who left it all to the ex.
Yeah, not a good thing. Or all to the cat. It's not.
That happened once.
That was a New York lady who
that
left all of her
once.
money to her dog. It was millions too.
Yeah. And then you've got the court
one
guardian.
Lucky dog.
The guardian.
The guardian. Yeah. We're here with Glen Thiessen, wealth advisor with Transition Planning Inc. Glen, we have a few minutes left before we have to go to break, but I want to cover a few more of these things with you. So, you talk about this post-divorce follow-through, all these things you need to update.
Right.
Now, this is, to me, it'd be like, in all these updating of things, it's like when they change your credit card number, when Bank of America gets compromised 1 of 4 times a year, and they say, here's a new card. Hope this doesn't disrupt your life. And you have to go to every single one of your auto pays and re-enter all this information.
That's exactly right.
It kind of seems that that's the same.
Yeah.
It's not hard, and it's just a process.
Yeah. Step by step, you take one account at a time, you take one step at a time, and eventually you get it done. Like, lay it out, itemize everything, make a list, and go ahead and check it off, as it's done. And it's a process that, you feel good about, making that progress. So, I guess what I want to say is don't let things go that should be done today. And if at all possible, it's great to avoid divorce in the first place. But if there's no way to do that, economically, you just got to survive it somehow. So get some help, get some advice.
And it really takes, it's careful planning that does this, isn't it? The help, the advice. At the beginning of the show, we talked a little bit about finding the people who have the same vision or core values. And a lot of times these are the people you really, in a time of distress,
right.
These are the people, the professionals that you need to really seek out, because it may be a lot of education. And I imagine with the emotion that's around a divorce, some people may want a lot of education. And this could be a case where some people are like, just handle it. I want to disassociate myself from the entire thing.
Sure.
I would guess that you have both sides of that coin.
Right. Actually, when you talk about divorce, it's really a new beginning. It is a sad ending, but now it's a whole new reality for you. You really need to go forward now with your life and think about how many years yet do you have to live? What do you want those years to look like? And how do you move forward? But you do have to take care of what is left behind and make sure that going forward, you've got a solid foundation.
Well, Glenn, good. It is one of those things that you have to talk about. As Heather said, it happens half the time.
Yeah.
And
if you're lucky.
If that doesn't make sense.
So you sync with people half the time if you're lucky?
If you're lucky.
Oh.
Half the time would be 50-50.
Yeah.
All right.
But yes, it does happen a lot, half the time.
That's why we have to talk about it.
So, to get that good information, and help people at least clarify some of the things, bring to light some of the things, and, clear the clutter on some of the things that people need to focus on.
Right.
Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Glen Thiessen from Transition Planning, Inc. When we come back, one of our favorite guests, author, insurance broker, Paul Pukas, will join us in just a few minutes. We'll be right back after this break.